Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this. Another look at a story that we touched on in passing in a previous video. Eddie Hearn says Jesse Bam Rodriguez versus Fernando Martinez is one of the best fights in boxing. I agree. Eddie Hearn believes a unification match between lineal and WBC super flyweight champion Jesse Bam Rodriguez and WBA title holder Fernando Martinez is one of the best fights that can be made. Rodriguez, 21-0 with 14 KOs, excelled in 2024. He defeated Juan Francisco Estrada via 7th round knockout in June to become the new king at 115 pounds. Then he defended his throne in November with a 3rd round stoppage of Pedro Guevara. The 25-year-old Rodriguez is, as yet, without an opponent. Martinez, 17-0 with 9 KOs, needs to return to the ring after an illness forced him to withdraw at the last minute from a New Year's Eve rematch with Kazuto Ioka. Rumor has it that they're in the process of rescheduling that rematch, but we're 2 months into the new year, and as of yet, I haven't seen an official fight date, and it's not registered on BoxRec, so I'm starting to wonder, is there going to be a second fight? The Puma Martinez fight is just brilliant. A brilliant fight, Hearn told Boxing Scene, and we really want Bam to unify. That could land on a Ring Magazine promoted card. If not, we'd be happy to do that on DAZN as well as part of our schedule. It's one of the best fights in boxing, so we'll see. Bam Rodriguez has taken out 3 of the 4 kings in a super flyweight division. Sorun Visay, Gallo Estrada, Carlos Cuadras. The only one he hasn't fought is Roman Gonzalez, otherwise known as Chocolatito, who's rumored to be going into a WBO title fight with WBO champion Fumilela Kafu that we touched on in a previous video. Impressive. It's impressive that Bam, being someone so young, has taken on so many accomplished fighters already and won in good fashion. Impressive, at least to me, but not some others. Some other people want to see Bam in there with somebody who's a bit younger, not as seasoned, closer to their prime. Enter Fernando Martinez, who up until recently was this division's unified WBA and IBF champion as a result of his win over Kazuto Ioka. That was a unification match. And as stated, there was supposed to be a rematch between them last year, but Puma Martinez fell ill. I believe he had flu-like symptoms, and he could not compete. You believe that? No, I believe he was struggling to make the weight, and at the last minute, he knew he wouldn't make it, so he starts talking about having the flu. That's what I believe. That's what I think. If you want to know what I think, and you're here, so I'll assume that you do. So I don't know if that rematch with Kazuto Ioka has been officially rescheduled. I don't actually know if they're in the process of doing that. I don't know that Fernando has the wiggle room to get out of that fight to go into this one. He's got a mandatory installed. There is a mandatory in the queue for Fernando, a guy who goes by the name David Jimenez, 16-1 with 11 KOs. As of April 20th of last year, he is Fernando's mandatory challenger. The walls are closing in. I don't know how much wiggle room Fernando has left, but if Turkey LL Sheik wants to use Bam Rodriguez on one of his shows and he wants to do a unification match, Fernando would be ideal. There are 3 champions at this weight. Fernando is one, Bam is another, and Fumilela Kafu is the other. You will notice that the IBF title is vacant. Up until recently, Fernando Martinez held that title, but he had to drop it in order to go into the Kazuto Ioka rematch, which ended up not happening. You would have thought that an IBF champion would have been crowned by now. The way the IBF likes to press and squeeze and rush their champions with these mandatory challengers, but as of yet, there is no IBF champion in the super flyweight division, the top 2 seeds. Well, Ubaldo Garcia Perez of Mexico is the highest ranked contender, and Rene Calixto is ranked right behind him. The top 2 seeds. I can only assume that the IBF champion will end up being one of these 2 guys, but when are they gonna fight? I don't know. The way I see it, the only guy who can get the wheels in motion for major moves in the super flyweight division and simultaneously keep the sanctioning bodies at bay is Turki El Sheikh. Even in a situation where Fernando might be en route to an Ioka rematch, Turki can convince him. Big Saudi bag does have a way of convincing people. Under normal circumstances, all the real money for a super flyweight is centered around the Asian boxing scene, particularly in Japan. Because most Americans don't watch super flyweights, and historically, Americans don't watch the lower weights. So a lot of the money for the guys in those divisions is in Japan. But this changes things. If Turki can find use for them on either a Ring Magazine card or a Riyadh Season card, I'd wager that that pays better than Fernando's engagement with Kazuto. Who wins? Between Bam and Puma? I'd say Bam. Look, Puma's a good fighter, make no mistake. He's a good fighter, tough Argentinian slugger, but what he really reminds me of is just a smaller version of Luis Lopez. He's that kind of fighter. Physical guy, athletic, but not necessarily textbook, and he's no technician. Not a cerebral fighter. Not a footwork guy. He ain't got footwork like Bam. Bam is a lot of things. He's got physical gifts, but overall he's a good boxer too. His technique, his shot selection, his movement. To me, he brings more to the table than Puma. If and when they fight, I've got Bam. In a fight that promises to yield the pleasing aesthetic because Bam is an action guy, but so is Puma. I just happen to think Bam is better at it. I've got Bam. And what I think would be a fantastic fight, and I want to see some unification matches in the super flyweight division. I mean, really. It's about time.
That's exactly what I'm telling you. So it might be somebody
You saying he ain't do it? He said he ain't know about it, but it's still somebody from his team.
Bring this hype inside.
Don't worry about it.
I do worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, it's about
We gonna sell it in
it's
the
not
ring.
business. I mean, it's not about business. This is about
What's up? Get the damn camera out the way, man. Go on somewhere.
Alexander Krasiuk is a consummate professional, and that's what I maintained in my previous video regarding this same subject. I told you I didn't believe that came from them. And after Teofimo's upload earlier today, it would seem that he is indirectly confessing. He's the one that did it, and he's the one that I thought did it. When I first heard this news, I thought of him. I feel like this is a perfect example of how the American boxing scene differs from others. The childish games that are played. I don't see stuff like this in the Asian boxing scene or the Eastern European one. It's not to say that nothing's ever happened so much as what usually happens here.
What happened with that gift basket, bro? Like, Keyshawn was not having it.
You know, I learned about this package from his trainer, Bomek, last night when I was going to sleep to my room.
Yeah.
He said, man, this is total disrespect. And I didn't even realize what he was talking about.
Right.
So, and he told me that someone sent this package.
Yeah.
Not to talk much about this. For me, it's clear. Someone with bad intentions tried to bring some hype to the situation. Berinchik is the honorable champion, a man who's been in boxing for many years. Watch out.
These accusations were not taken lightly by Alex Krasiuk or Team Berinchik. Why would they be? For a bunch of consummate professionals, respectful ones, that are just about their boxing, why would they want their names dragged in the mud over something they didn't do? Why would they want their names dragged in the mud over this? Over Teofimo's shenanigans. Case of mistaken identity, that's what it is. And the problem with these kinds of behaviors is that people rush to assumption. To judgment. Before all the facts come out, you got a lot of people that are already going to make up their mind because they're galvanized, energized. They're taking it personal. Because it is personal. The disconnect is it's not a personal matter between Dennis and Keyshawn, it's between Teofimo and Keyshawn. To what end? I don't know, because Teofimo ain't got no plans of fighting Keyshawn, so I don't know what he expects to get out of this, what the end game is supposed to be, near as I can tell, he's just another bigot doing bigot things. Comment section of my video detailing the fiasco, somebody said that Teofimo is playing the media like a fiddle. Sorry to say that's not what playing the media is. There has to be a goal, there has to be a prize. There's no prize here. Nothing to gain. To attain. What did Teofimo Lopez actually achieve by doing this? And the reason I think he came out with it, the reason I think in some ways he copped to the rap, is he probably realized if he doesn't, Dennis is going to take the fall. Dennis is going to get blamed. He got blamed.
Now, what do you think of his reactions here in this press conference, particularly with the message talking about the package that was sent to him as far as like the watermelon banana whole thing?
Dennis don't know about all of this stuff, you know. It's he don't send nothing, and he don't know. It's
Do you know who sent the package?
No idea.
Let's not make this too long-winded. If this is a testament to anything, it's a testament to the tomfoolery I'm always talking about within the American boxing scene and how some American boxers choose to use their time instead of fighting. That if you feel that raw about what happened between you, Keyshawn, and your father and all those guys who jumped him, you could have just fought Keyshawn while you were still at top rank. Clearly, you didn't want to do that. By the time Teofimo comes back, whenever he comes back, a year's time may have passed between his next fight and his last one. This is how he uses his time instead of fighting. It's not that Top Rank didn't offer him fights. They offered him fights, he just didn't want them. So he could sit around kiki-keying in a corner doing shit like this. What they resemble are children, not consummate professionals and not the boxers of old, the boxers that America used to produce. No, these days, we just got a bunch of rugrats running around. Bunch of kids. Doing kid stuff. Playing pranks. Teofimo is a testament to how American boxers really ain't what they used to be. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, popular periodical Sportico published their version of the Forbes list, that is, the top-earning athletes in all of organized sports, though, as it pertains to boxing, which is what we're all here for, here's how the list stacks up. Tyson Fury comes in at number 1, Alexander Usyk comes in at number 2, Canelo comes in at number 3, Anthony Joshua comes in at number 4, Jake Paul comes in at number 5, and Inoue comes in at number 6. This is a somewhat different pecking order than what we've seen in previous years. In previous years, it's been Canelo at the top and everybody else in the back seat. What changed? Saudi Arabian influence. Saudi Arabian cash injections into the sport to make the biggest fights possible. You'll notice that the top 2 guys are Fury and Usyk, and that's not by accident. They got paid a fortune to fight not once, but twice, and that explains why they're both up there. What numbers were being floated out there for Fury's purse, for Usyk's purse, their purses in both fights, astronomical numbers. It's conceivable that Turkey paid well above market value to put their 2 fights together. Not saying that both boxers don't have their own marquee value to generate revenue with their own fights. Without Turkey El Sheikh, they do, but with him, well, you see how the list stacks up. And when this year is said and done, and we usher in a new one, I think the list is going to look different. Because now Canelo is working with Turkey El Sheikh on what is a 4-fight deal. What's impressive is he still managed to come in the top 5, top 3, off his marquee value alone. No Saudi bags needed. Just off of what he generates with his fights, and he fought 2 times last year. So just imagine what he might be getting now that he's working with Turkey moving forward for his next 4 fights. Anthony Joshua made $60 million. Even though the year didn't end well for Anthony, at least he made a killing. At least he made a lot of money, enough to retire on. Seems odd seeing the name of Jake Paul wedged in between Anthony Joshua and Naoya Inoue, but you gotta give it to the guy. He does know how to sell himself. He does know how to promote a show. He does know how to generate revenue. Whether you like it or not, Jake Paul knows what he's doing. He's good at it. So let's see what he can generate this year. What's really impressive, perhaps more impressive than all the other guys on the list, is that Inoue, a super bantamweight, made an estimated $35 million from 2 ring appearances last year. Let me tell you something. Guys at that weight don't normally make 7 figures. Let alone 8. It just doesn't happen. I don't think there's ever been a super bantamweight in the history of boxing that generated the revenue that Inoue is now generating, and that's without a Saudi bag. That's off his name alone, his fanfare in Japan. So when you see these highfalutin Americans telling you that this is the center of the boxing universe, you've got 2 Brits up there, 1 Ukrainian, a Mexican, and a Japanese guy. And only one of these guys is actually an American national, the one that a lot of people don't even consider a legitimate boxer. That's Jake Paul. The rest of these guys, it's international. Because boxing is a global sport. I say it all the time, and it's the Americans that struggle the most with this. This is not your father's era of boxing to where everybody has to come here in order to make money. The vast majority of these boxers don't fight here. Only 2 of them are based out of America, Jake Paul and Canelo. And only one of them's American. The name that's missing from this list is the name of Gervonta Davis. He ain't there, but why would he be? He only fought once last year against Frank Martin, and that fight didn't sell nothing. In fact, the only time I've ever seen the name of Gervonta Davis on a list like this was the year that he fought Ryan Garcia, because that's the one pay-per-view he was in that did 1 million buys. But the others, they didn't land him a spot on lists like this, and coincidentally, he's not on it now. He's not gonna be unless he goes to Saudi. So when you get these highfalutin, Hasidity Americans trying to tell you that America's the mecca of boxing, the center of the boxing universe, bullshit. It's bullshit. When a David Benavidez says that he's a Vegas fighter now and he doesn't want to have to go to Saudi, if you want to make serious money, you better. The same applies to Gervonta. He's not too crazy about going to Saudi for a Saudi bag either. What kind of prize fighters are these? Prize fighting. Fighting for the biggest prizes is the name of the game. For so many years, they excused him not fighting his contemporaries, the other guys at the weight, because they claimed he's making so much money. Well, not enough to make this list. They claimed he's usurped Canelo as the face of boxing. They say he is the face of boxing. So why isn't he on this list? Basic idea is that when you're the face of boxing, your fights generate more revenue than everybody else, even if he's not at the top. If he's the face, he should be somewhere in there. He's not there at all. So what does that tell you? And do you think that fighting the Frank Martins and Lamont Roaches of the world is going to land him a spot on this list? The real reason he doesn't want to go to Saudi is you don't go to Saudi and have your pick of the litter, make astronomical amounts of cash for being matched baby soft. No, sir, that's not what's going on over there. Saudi is fast becoming boxing's version of the Super Bowl, the NBA playoffs, or the World Series. It's the show, and it's where you can make the most money if you're willing to fight the best in your sport. But I've been telling you for years, Gervonta Davis is to boxing what the Harlem Globetrotters are to the NBA. It's not actually a competition, his fights. It's more like a scripted spectacle where the guy who's supposed to win always wins, because it's not a competition. The way the Harlem Globetrotters always play the same team, and they always win, is the same way he always fights the same kind of guys. Same level of competition. Nobody's expecting any surprises. And nothing surprising happens. So when he beats these massive underdogs and does a backflip off the top rope, you'd have thought he won a Super Bowl. Beat the odds. Disproportionate responses to predictable outcomes. It's a parody of boxing. And you won't get on this list doing that. But he doesn't mind, as long as he makes enough to buy a new purse.